Anwar Sadat was only the third president of a nation representing one of the world's oldest civilizations. Against the glory of a past symbolized by fabled temples, the pyramids, and the Sphinx, Anwar Sadat was one of a group of young army officers determined to lift their land from poverty into the promise of the 20th century. But the man whose feet were set on the road to power by a bloodless military coup today fell victim to military bullets. Mike Wallace reviews Anwar Sadat's story.
Anwar Sadat's beginnings were modest enough. He was born on December 25, 1918 in the Nile Delta village of Mit Abul Qum, the village he loved so deeply. His father, an Egyptian, was a government clerk, his mother a Sudanese. He left the village for military school as a youth and rose through the ranks of Egypt's army along with his friend Gamal Abdel Nasser. But it is little remembered now in the West that Anwar Sadat himself served for years in British prisons in Egypt, convicted of complicity in a political assassination.
Cell 54. How bad was it?
Terrible. But I must say this. This has formed my inner resistance, really, because I overcame this. The last 6 months, they were the most happiest time that I lived or will ever live.
Another force that drove him then, he acknowledged, was his hatred for Israel. It was in 1956 that he saw the Israelis move into Egypt's Sinai Desert. In 1967, he saw Israel win the Six-Day War against Egypt and her Arab allies. Then in September of 1970, his comrade President Nasser died, and the vice president, Anwar Sadat, succeeded him. No one expected Sadat to last. He was given a few weeks at best. But within a year, he had confounded the naysayers, and he emerged as a strong and charismatic leader. And then 8 years ago today, he launched the Yom Kippur War, a war, he later said, that had given Egypt back its manhood, its self-respect. It was that war that, in effect, gave him license to launch his peace offensive, to go to Jerusalem and sit down with the enemy in search of peace. And it was there that he heard his old adversary, Golda Meir, praise his efforts as peacemaker.
It must go on, face to face, between us and between you, so that even an old lady like I am will live to see the day.
I've always said this.
You always call me an old lady, Mr. President.
In September 1978, Sadat went to Camp David with Menachem Begin and President Carter. An astonished world watched as the Camp David Accords were signed in the White House. 6 months later, after long haggling over the language of the treaty, came peace.
Let there be no more wars or bloodshed between Arabs and Israelis. Let there be no more suffering or denial of rights.
It was only last month that Sadat, determined that he and his government would not suffer the same fate that befell the Shah of Iran, that he purged those militants who, he feared, sought to use the power of Islam to topple his regime. He was not the Shah, and he fell not like the Shah, but under a hail of assassins' bullets.
The Nile has given my people also the sense of eternity, that the human is immortal, that there is a second life. The body may perish, but the soul will continue to live.